The mission of the City School District of Albany is to educate and prepare all students for college and career, citizenship, and life in partnership with our diverse community. And I don't have my agenda. Is that, does she? Is that it? Okay. The Albany Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, students, and other people to our meeting. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that we can better understand your views. Please be aware that by law, individual student information or particular personnel issues cannot be discussed at public sessions of the board. When recognized by the board president, please state your name and city of residence. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers will be notified by the board president when their time has expired. We take public comment very seriously, and careful notes will be taken. However, the board generally does not respond while the meeting is in public session, and we welcome you to email the appropriate staff members, the superintendent, and if there are issues that you want to bring to our attention. I am doing this on the fly because it's that new public comment statement pursuant to a wonderful policy that the committee gave us and we approved, but I don't have it in front of me and have not committed it to memory. But that's the story. So Dahlia Herring, you're up.
Okay, that's good. With my throaty voice, uh, I don't want to spoil your presentation, Mr. Hogan, but as a community member, I just need to say how delighted I was to see the news about you being able to uh, reinstate many of the things that you wanted to do, and particularly near and dear, well, they're all important, but that not only the newcomer program, but that the newcomer program didn't quite, the expenditure for the newcomer program didn't quite hit the community schools program as much, so that you can do the community schools and have an expansion of that, and the newcomer, and the middle school, and the academic plan, and the ALC redesign. It's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we're moving on to the discussion. And number 3, Mr. Hogan, you're up. And Ms. Primero. Oh, God, I'm going to get that right soon.
Good evening. So, as everyone knows, it's a great state aid year. I think some of the things we're saying in the state aid runs are things we have been lobbying for and really lobbying more heavily the last 2 or 3 years, even this last year. Some of the areas, like I said, you see on the runs, like they're closing the gap in terms of the foundation aid formula, targeting districts like ours that were getting paid significantly less than what the foundation aid run said. So we've been asking for that. They addressed E&L needs and cost. They acknowledged the need for wraparound services through a major increase in community schools. And at the same time, they did some controlling of the charter school tuition increases. They're still getting an increase, but it's not what it would have been. So the result was, as everyone knows, we had a great state aid year. In my career, I've never seen what we're able to do here. Maybe it's a once in a lifetime we're experiencing, where we're going to be able to put in several new programs in several areas and not raise the tax levy at the same time. So it certainly is a special moment I think we'll cherish for a long time. So here's the agenda for this evening. There are a lot of slides. A lot of these topics we've discussed several times, so I'm not going to read you the slides. I'll just hit some main points, but the documentation's here to really show you an overview of everything that's included in the budget plan for 2017-18. This is what's left of the budget calendar. We do have to continue to urge people to come out and vote, because sometimes when taxes don't go up or they only go up 1%, people may be inclined to just not bother. but it's very important we get people to come out and vote. So here are the next steps and the very important date of May 16th when we vote. The adjustments since we last saw you, in addition to all of the programming, we backed off from the dependence on fund balance. This will help us in future budgets. We try not to just do a single budget at a time. The decisions we make today will impact the next 3 to 5 budgets. So in our financial planning, we're always trying to look at multiple budgets out, not just 1 year. Also, we were able, the difference to us between the governor's state aid run in January and the final budget adopted by the legislature was a $3 million increase. And that really helped us to get over the wall and move forward with all these great programs. On the expenditure side, the first line is just staff transitions. The charter school tuition, I mentioned that before, they're still getting a $500 increase per student, but it would have been $1,000 to $1,500 per student. So that was a great form of relief. The 50 North Lark Street staffing, we have added that in. The alternative ed redesign, we've added in option A, which is the first year of putting in teachers. The second year would be adding teacher aides. The academic plan, you'll see we did modify some things and came up with a new option D, but just added additional things to the last version you saw. The AVID program, this will give us a full FTE at both Hackett and Myers and really set us up to have full implementation of the program in grades, all grades 6 through 8. That was currently being phased in. So when we got to the end, we're actually at a balanced budget. There is some use of fund balance and reserves. That's we historically have done that, but we backed off that number, 650,000. So that's a positive step. And this indicates that we can go out with the same tax levy. Yay for that. We like that, right? So again, I'm still trying to digest this, but it's unbelievable that we can do all of this great programming and not raise taxes all in 1 year. This is tremendous. So I guess, you know, a light shining on us from all of those recession years when we were sitting here having those other conversations. We've discussed the community schools program before. I'm just going to, again, show you. My goal here is to really show you conceptually all the things included in the new package. This is the community schools. This basically talks about the extended programs and areas that grant provides us to do. Again, the schools that we're going to implement the full model in are the priority schools and the Alternative Learning Center program. And we have about 3.3 million of community schools allocation, and we actually are breaking it up this way. Initially, earlier on, the governor and the budget office had said our community schools had increased about 600,000, and we were told, you know, a major initiative of that is to help districts with the ENL cost. So there is some allocation for that. And the academic plan, those things are labeled and shaded yellowish that are coming from the funding of the community schools. So here you'll see, again, the shaded one, the yellow, that means it's funded from the community schools effort, and then anything in white is being funded through the general fund. I'm just going to, these are topical areas. If you look at towards the top in a gray shade under budget option D, it says pre-K 2 literacy. So everything on this page really is focused on pre-K 2 early learning, which is a major emphasis we started last year. This next slide focuses on social emotional support, things like behavioral specialists, psychologists, social workers. So this is another theme of our academic plan. Another theme of our academic plan is college and career readiness, and this is where we increased our efforts in the AVID program and some AIS support. And on the bottom, you see safety and security. So we're adding another hall monitor through here. We're also adding 3 additional hall monitors through the package that's included in the 50 North Lark Street package for the new middle school. Administrative support is another theme in the academic plan. So here are the positions that we've laid out. We've done a good job between the last couple of years, and next year we'll end up pretty much with assistant principals. For years, the elementaries were staffed with a principal and maybe a homeschool coordinator. So we have, over time, through attrition, and now with these efforts, really tried to put that model into place with an AP and a principal in every elementary. And then there's a testing coordinator and a fine arts instructional supervisor. So that is the components of the option D, which actually is more enhanced than option C was because of the additional funding. As I mentioned before, our use of fund balance and reserves, we've reduced that. The current budget has $7.15 million. We've reduced that to a little under $6.5 million for next year. This is rolling out our fund balance and reserves over time. We don't always spend totally what we allocated. We have, typically there's savings. We're not 100% employed in every position every day of the year. Our health insurance is self-insured. When that performs well, we don't have to pay the insurance companies. We actually get to keep the benefits of, we just pay actual cost in that. And then there are other areas like charter schools. Those enrollments vary. Sometimes there's savings in those areas as well. So this just kind of gives you a snapshot of, we're not liquidating the organization in 1 year to put these programs in. There's some consistency, and there is a plan going out a few years. The tax levy history actually is very good. As you see here, this is a 7-year run, but beginning in 2011-12 through next year, you will have 3 out of 7 years with no tax increase. And then in those years, 2014 and 2015, even though there were small tax increases of 0.87 and 0.98, those were years when the governor rewarded entities that stayed under the tax cap, so you probably got fully reimbursed for those. So if you look at that, you almost have had, one way to look at this is pretty much 5 zero tax levies in 7 years. At the same time, we're servicing over 1,000 additional students than we were. So we've been able to do all these things through long-term planning and trying to be prudent with our decisions and implementation of the programs that we do. This is just a graphic that shows a 2% growth assumption versus what our actual tax levies are. More recent years, what's been happening is the only reason we've been able to do this is we've had 3 good state aid years in a row because they took about $12 million away from us during the recession, and they're slowly trying to get us back. So the last 3 years have been good, and rather than implement 100% of that money with new programs, we've actually tried to keep the tax levy relatively flat and balance the needs of the community as well as all of the needs of the students and the things we're doing here. But we still have added a lot of rich programming in the last 3 years. So there's, this is what's coming up next. We do have some community presentations scheduled. We'll do those right up to the day of the vote as they're requested. Typically they're neighborhood associations, PTAs, et cetera. They usually contact our communications department and they start getting scheduled this time of year. So this brings us to the last slide. I think I've given an overview. There's a lot of new programs and we're not increasing the tax levy. So it's actually, we're in a very enviable position. So with that, I'll turn it back to the president.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Thank you, Ms. Primero, for the good news and for the description of how it's being utilized. And thank you, Dr. Wilkins and staff, for the work you've done. And at the 11th hour, going back in and figuring out how to use the extra money in a good and responsible way. Let's start over here. Mr. Bruce, with our discussion.
Mr. Hogan, in your memo, you addressed the charter school funding and how you're adjusting the state aid run. It wasn't completely obvious to me. Can you explain that a little bit?
There is a formula for charter school transition aid, and the intention of the formula is to look at when there's a growth in charter school enrollment students to give some financial aid to those districts that are experiencing growth. So it's a growth model. It's 3 years backwards. They look at enrollments, and it's a weighted average. There's 80% in the most current year, 60%, 40%. So all of these numbers come in. There was a major debacle about 3 years ago when the State Department decided they typically used to get all their numbers from us, but then they decided and didn't really tell us. They took numbers from the charter schools. I think there was just some confusion. I think the charter schools may have given them all students in the school building as opposed to the Albany resident. So we got this state aid run with like $2 million of new money. And then, like, as we were saying, what's this all about? Our neighboring districts that took major losses were screaming, where'd all our money go? So it turned into, it was on TV. State Ed had to go talk to the legislature and explain what happened. And in the end, within 48 hours, they took all that money away. So when I saw this big increase this year, it's up to 2 million, I was concerned that the enrollment growth in our charter schools really can't really justify that. That seems like it's deja vu to about 3 years ago here. So I didn't want to put that in the budget and then have $1 million loss. So I have been in contact with the SED probably 4 or 5 times in the last 2 days. We believe the issue is, again, that the charter schools are telling them all the kids in the building, but we're only going to get aid on the residents, so we believe that's what the discrepancy is. So that's how it was budgeted. We have that formula. We plugged the numbers in. When we ran the formula with this year's number, we could reconcile right to the aid figure, which is, I think, about 650,000, give or take. When we put in the numbers for next year, it's like 1.1 million. It's not 2 million. So the worst case, well, there's a few scenarios that could occur. One is nothing happens and we get to keep the 2 million. The second one is they send us the 2 million, and we totally are entitled to at least 1.1 million of it. They send us the 2 million, but then we get a little letter between 6 months and 5 years from now that says, oh, by the way, on your next state aid payment, we're taking $600,000 or $800,000. And then the other option is it just gets corrected because I've been in conversations with them to find out why and correct it before they issue the aid. So based on what I know and the fact Stephanie and I ran the numbers, ran the formula, we don't have the enrollment growth to support that. It looks like they're counting resident students, which is just an error. Now, you know, state aid runs are not perfect. Everything in these aids, we're not even guaranteed. Everything in here is our estimates. A year from now, when the governor puts out the state aid runs, they're going to show what the real numbers are as opposed to the estimates to what they're paying us next year. There'll be real numbers because a lot of those estimates are driven off budget. We file all of this stuff in November, and a lot of these estimates are based on budget estimates, et cetera. So sometimes you underspend, your aid comes in less the following year. So I think we're okay in terms of I budgeted on the conservative side. If we end up with that additional money, it will end up into fund balance, and then that will just help future budgets.
Ms. Lang?
Sorry. So yay. I want to thank the district for all of their advocacy and really pointing to what was needed in the budget that was inadequate, or at least what we needed to put in to make us whole. I do just want to briefly talk about communication. Has been something that has we've talked about wanting to expand, and I do know that there is a meeting, but I did want, if you could, a few minutes, talk about how that is something that is important to us for the upcoming budget.
We are having a meeting on Tuesday to talk about our communication plan, and we are meeting with our communication guru, which is Ron Lesko, as well as the cabinet on Tuesday afternoon. And we do have to go through looking at Tenet 6 and getting ourselves ready for preparation on that. And I think Bill has some more information about how we're going to do some development of that this year in the 16-17 budget versus looking into the 17-18 budget for some communication changes or strategic planning. I'm not sure if Bill wants to add anything to that.
Just
Bill, just to clarify, so the Tenet 6 is in the DSIP, the District Comprehensive Improvement Plan.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. So when the topic came up and we discussed it, we feel we have underspent this year. Anything that we want to do, we can just do it, absorb it in this year's budget, so it doesn't become a 17-18 budget issue or necessitate us modifying this. So if there is a need for any type of expenditure, we will just absorb it this year.
Ms. Roach?
Thanks so much for all your hard work and advocacy, and thank you to my fellow board members, especially those who participated in the legislative advocacy. You guys, together with members of our staff and Dr. Wilkins, were instrumental in really putting the message across to our legislatures that we really needed more resources in order to do the things that we need to get done. So thank you so much.
Dr. Chatur?
This is one case where the squeaky wheel actually got the oil. Great job, everybody.
Ms. Smith?
I'm good. I just echo what Ms. Roach and Mr. Shudar said. Okay.
Ms. Savage?
Apparently, we need to invest in a little WD-40 for the maintenance cart, which we can all hear in the back. I actually want to echo what everyone has said about the work of the Government Affairs Committee and the staff, but more importantly for this room, I want to focus on the thorough and procedural approach to budget development this year, which is quite similar to what we had last year and quite dissimilar to the first budget that I had the opportunity to be involved with. And the fact that we had a clear plan and an understanding about the way the monies tie to the intent of the district is really important. And the fact that it was done so thoroughly made it a really much more focused effort. And I think that we are putting the money in the right places because we went through that process. I do have one very small question about the slides I just wanted to ask you. In the slide with the green bars, the green vertical bars, which is the fund balance slide, I couldn't tell from the slide which of those numbers are actual and which is projected. There's only one that's a mystery, right? Obviously everything, 17, 18, 18, 19 are obviously projections. 15, 16, and before are presumably actuals. And 16, 17, which is this year, I wasn't sure, is that a projection for where we're going to be at the end of this year, or is that actually where we were at the beginning? I couldn't tell.
No, this is where we would expect to be at the end of the year.
So the last three bars are projections, and the
projections,
first
right.
ones are actual. Okay, thanks.
I also want to echo what everybody else said, and I started out by saying, and I also wanted to highlight what I think is quite wonderful about this, and that is that the district, it takes a lot of hits about a lot of things, some not warranted, some maybe warranted in part. But when lobbying efforts and work with the legislature and in-house work all come together to provide this kind of support from the state, one of the things that the district does is to not raise taxes, is to basically say that we are going to use the money in a smart way, use it for the benefit of our students, all of whom have sometimes unending needs because of things that that are foisted on them, not by their own doing. And yet, in the end, one of the things responsibly that the board and the district does is to say we're going to have another 0% tax year, and we're going to use that as a goal, and we're going to figure out how to provide the means with the increased money from the state to do what we need to do. So I just think it's important to point out, even though we have a smaller but dedicated audience nonetheless from the last time that we met just about a week ago. Mr. Bruce?
Yeah, just a quick question on the reserves. I know the tax inventory and the employment benefit reserve, we talked about it in the audit committee of using them, and just a question as to why we decided not to do that this time. I meant to ask that last budget.
Originally, in the earlier versions of the budget, I was planning on using some of them, but it was, I think, 2 meetings ago that I was looking where our fund balance is, and there's that 4% threshold limitation. I was forecasting year end, thinking, okay, I'd rather take it from fund balance to help stay within the 4%. Of course, there's no guarantee of that, because next week the county can give me $1 million of delinquent taxes they collected. But so it was really trying to control the fund balance and saying, okay, I need to take more out of fund balance and these other reserves. There's no harm, no foul. We'll have those funding available for future budgets. So it was really a strategic move of just reshuffling where the funds are coming from.
Mr. Hogan, now that Mr. Brewster's asked you that, did the legislature increase the fund balance to 10%, or is that still on the table?
They did not.
Was it voted down, or was it just not voted on yet?
I only asked the question, did it pass? Is it real? And the answer was no. I do believe it's going to be reintroduced soon.
Okay, so I was just curious. So we still have some work to do. Government Relations Committee, so now that's the next topic. But I wanted to clarify that, because I know that that's a real thing, not just for our district, but for everybody.
And we can help provide them with some rationale of why it should be.
Okay, so we'll do that again and earn more brownie points. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the budget? Well, I have to read it.
One more question.
Oh, sorry.
And my question is basically for you. It revolves around the newcomer school, same question from last time. Basically, the board or the school district was actually informed of the newcomer school by reading about it in the Times-Union under the last superintendent about 2 years ago. It's a long time ago, yeah, but I'm actually addressing it. And Dr. Wilkins has done an excellent job of providing presentations, comparative analysis around why she believes the newcomer school is very important for us and the direction we should take with this very important population. However, we vote on essentially everything that transpires in this school district. The school board votes on it. We vote on new textbooks. We vote on a 20 cent per hour raise. We vote on just about everything. And it seems like opening a new program, as it's listed here, should also be voted upon.
So to answer your question, we actually don't vote on everything. Two things. Number one, newcomer school is just the delivery of the instruction that we are mandated to provide under federal law, and the base budget in the prior years have actually had the staffing of newcomer as part of the base budget, but they weren't called newcomer, they were just ELL. So ELL mandated required staffing under federal law, under Part 54 CFR, I forget the numbers, have always been part of the base budget, and they were in fact part of the base budget. This year, the delivery of the instruction under ELL was shifted to be in a separate location, but it is no more of a new program than anything else. So that's number one. Number two, we actually don't vote on everything because other things in the base budget that were done pursuant to law, like special ed requirements for the number of TAs, the number of teachers in terms of ratios, the number of social workers, huge swaths of numbers for multi-millions of dollars are in the base budget for special ed requirements. And if we decided to do a different delivery of how we did that, we wouldn't be voting on it either. The analogy you raised, just so you understand why there's a difference of opinion on 3-year-olds, is we're mandated to provide ELL services. We are not mandated to have a 3-year-old program. To actually take on a 3-year-old program, we did vote on it because it's something that we can just do or not do. So we will just sort of disagree. District council, as you know, I mentioned to you in an email, was consulted. There is no requirement for resolutions on programming. The way as explained last time, the way it works annually is that budget is prepared. Mandated things are often put into the base budget. Non-mandated things are not put in the base budget sometimes, depending on the amount of money we have to work with. And any program that comes with a dollar amount is then given to us as part of the budget. If there's something someone doesn't like or agree with, they can vote against the budget. But we're just we just have a difference of opinion on what is required for a resolution. So that's sort of the answer. And
Mr. Hogan, can you turn to screen 7, please? Okay, second bullet point says opening of a newcomer program at North Albany. That seems to suggest to me it's a new program.
And I do understand that, and so we're not going to reach a consensus on this. You have a difference of opinion than I do, and that obviously council doesn't what has to be voted on. And as a result, you brought it up. You can vote on the budget or not vote on the budget, but there is no resolution on this. There is no requirement for resolution. Your perception of it is not shared. And so I understand, but it's one of those things people disagree about. People just have difference of opinion.
Is that generally true? Does the board feel like this program should be inserted within the...
Instead, what I'm going to ask you to do, rather than have you, because that's not how Robert's rules work, and we don't just sort of poll people, if you'd like, you can, pursuant to Robert's rules, try to put a resolution on, and then you'll see if you get 5 people on the board once a meeting has opened to put on a resolution. Other than that, we will be moving on to adopt the budget. So if you'd like, I can ask whether, if you would like to make a motion to put a resolution on the agenda right now to see if anybody is interested in doing that, you would need 5 votes to actually entertain a motion for a resolution. You're welcome to do that if you'd like. Do you want to do that?
I do not want to do that. What I would like to do is, I would like a resolution around the newcomer school. We could vote on the budget. I'm actually for both, but I feel like it's a very important part of process that we vote on this.
Right. So I understand, but actual facts and history and opinions disagree with you. So you're entitled to have your opinion, but the facts from council, from the board, from the history of the district in terms of what is voted on and what isn't, actually are different than what you perceive. So I know you want a resolution. The way it works is, if you'd like one, I will say, Mr. Bruce, would you like to make a motion to have this board vote on whether they want to add a resolution to the meeting tonight? That's the only thing on the table now. If you'd like it, I'm more than happy to say those words.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay, so I'd like to find, anybody want to make a motion to amend the agenda to entertain a resolution regarding the newcomer school?
I would like to make the motion.
Is there a second? Seeing none, that's over. I'd like to get a motion, please, to adopt this resolution of the budget. And it is a motion for resolve that the Board of Education of the City School District of Albany adopt the proposed budget for the 2017-18 year, to be presented to the voters of the City of Albany to be voted on May 16, 2017. And be it further resolved that the amount stated in such proposed budget in the total amount of $240,177,508 be and hereby are appropriated as estimated expenditures in the amounts and purposes therein specified. And be it further resolved that the total amount of estimated revenue and the amount necessary to be raised by real property tax in addition thereto, and to finance the total estimated expenditure shall be and become applicable in the amounts therein stated for the purpose of meeting said appropriations. And I think that's it. And then it's just the date. I just closed out of that. May I get a motion? Ms. Smith, seconded Dr. Chator. All those in favor? That is everyone except Mr. Bruce. All those opposed?
Mr. Bruce.
Okay, that is Mr. Bruce who is opposed. The resolution passes. Thank you all. May I get a motion to adjourn? Ms. Smith, Dr. Chator. All those in favor, I got to get a vote. All those in favor of adjourning? And that is unanimous. Thank you all. Have a good Easter holiday all. See you at the end of the month.